Hey, welcome to another Tea Time show with me, Mark Tillison. This is the show where we talk to you about how to get more business through your website. Today's show features a question from Ash, who says, how do I add HTTPS to my website? I'm going to be answering this in some depth, so it might be a bit of a bumper show because this isn't quite as simple as just adding a certificate and off you go. There are lots of implications across the net, how your site works, how you work with Webmaster Tools, Google Analytics, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So keep watching and I'll talk you through some of the pitfalls that you are almost certainly going to fall in trying to migrate your site onto HTTPS. I have done this dozens of times already, and every single time a developer or somebody misses some step that they later go, oops, I meant to do, oh, I didn't think about that. So I'm going to give you a list of things, I'm going to tell you how to do this, and then a list of things you need to think about outside of your website, which are going to have some impact as well. As usual, if you need some help with any of this, just comment in the comments. Let me know and I'll help you as best I can. Or you can find us via tillison.co.uk, which is HTTPS, of course, and send us a message there and maybe we can help you with this migration to make sure that you don't screw it up like most people do. As usual, if you want more videos about how to make more money online, then hit the subscribe button right now and remember to comment and I'll try and help. So, what's this whole HTTPS thing about? What's SSL? How do I add HTTPS to my website? And why is this happening? So, so this query comes in with a bunch of queries. I mean, dozens and dozens and dozens, because Google has been sending out emails saying, secure your site with HTTPS. Starting in July 2018, visitors will Chrome will see a not secure warning. Oh my God, the world's going to end. So that's what the problem is. So the background to this very basically is HTTP effectively is inherently an insecure protocol. That's not to say that any Tom, Dick and Harry can see exactly what you're transmitting from your computer across the internet, though there are ways we're led to believe that people can do that and interpret that data. HTTPS is a secure connection between your browser and the server you're connecting to, which addresses that issue. So for a long time, as long as I can remember, things like payment gateways, obviously online banking, things like that have used the HTTPS or SSL, secure socket layer communication. And what's happened over the last maybe year or so is there's been a big push by the internet, Google and others, to move sites gradually to HTTPS. So you will notice already, and you'll be familiar with this, if you go to your Google Ads account, it's HTTPS. If you go to Facebook, it's HTTPS. If you go to Twitter, if you go to your bank, if you go to a huge number of websites now, they've been HTTPS or used that protocol for a long time. And what's happening now is sites like yours, sites like ours, sites that have just got content and pages and landing pages about their business, even just blogs, there's this kind of push to make all of these sites HTTPS and make the internet a much more secure place and look after yours and my data. Okay, bravo, let's all go with that. The problem is that what Google Chrome users are now seeing, if they go to a site, what this message is about, if they go to a website that is HTTP only, let's see what that looks like. So in here we get a not secure. Whoa, hang on, that's a big scary alert for many users of the internet. What does this mean? Your connection to this site is not secure. Well, hang on, this is an e-commerce store. I don't trust it, I'm going to leave. So we're starting to see conversion rates drop off from HTTP websites. So e-commerce stores typically, I mean, all of them will use a payment gateway. Some of them will refer you off to PayPal, which is HTTPS, or another payment gateway, which is HTTPS. So that part of your session with that website is actually not on that domain. It's not HTTPS. or rather the payment gateway is HTTPS, but your browsing when you're picking your product and adding it to carts is HTTP. And until now, that's been absolutely fine. No one cared. Everyone was happy with that. No problem. But now Google wants the whole experience to be HTTPS. So there's kind of some scaremongering almost, you know, to push the internet this way, starting with the people that are using your website and warning them. It's very gently at the moment, but who knows how far this will go. But very gently warning them and saying, your connection to this site is not secure. We just want to warn you. When people don't understand what that means, and that actually these pages don't need to be secure, it's a bit scary. So they leave. So this has created a flood of emails to us from clients and from outside, you know, from the internet, of people saying, how do I do this? What do I do? Oh my God. So let's walk you through this. So what are the first steps, okay? So the first thing that you're going to need to do is you're going to need an SSL certificate, okay? So you need to go off to your website host, or maybe your web developer, or maybe your domain registrar, maybe they're all the same thing. Whoever looks after your website, whoever is your webmaster, and say, I need an SSL certificate, and then you will pay an annual license, or maybe a 2-year, 3-year, 5-year, whatever you're going to do. But shop around a little bit, because they tend to vary in price, and give or take, a certificate is a certificate is a certificate. So as long as you got it, you should generally be fine. But you should be probably working with somebody technical, someone who's a developer, maybe an SEO agency that can do this for you and make sure that you implement it properly. So the first thing is go and get yourself an SSL certificate for your domain. Okay? The next thing you're going to need is for that developer to implement that SSL certificate on your server, so that now the pages on your website are licensed to serve as HTTPS pages. If you don't do that, you can serve them as HTTPS, but that's even worse, because now you're saying it's secure, but it isn't, and then it will get a big scary warning saying, this isn't secure, okay? So really don't do that, okay? Get yourself the SSL certificate, serve all the pages on HTTPS. Now here's the first problem. So this is what normally happens. The developer implements it and goes, yes, I've done that, there you go, HTTPS, you've got a HTTPS site. The problem is, I can come to your HTTP website and still see all of those pages. So if you've got 10,000 pages in your e-commerce store, you've now got 10,000 HTTP pages and 10,000 HTTPS pages, all of which can probably be crawled by Google, and all of which are now duplicate content. That's very bad for your rankings organically, because now you've basically got 2 copies of everything. Google's going to get confused and it's a big mess. So the first thing you need to make sure is that ideally your content management system, maybe you're on Magento, maybe you're on PrestaShop, you know, maybe you're on WooCommerce, anything like that, maybe you're on WordPress, but there will be some configuration settings in there to serve by default that whole website as HTTPS. So step number 2, go and make sure that your website is serving pages on HTTPS, and ideally not the HTTP protocol, to stop any confusion. Okay, so that's step number 2, maybe step number 3. The next thing that you need to do is tell the internet and tell Google and tell anyone who's got links to your website that the HTTP pages have moved. Okay, so what you need to implement here is what we call a blanket 301 redirect. A 301 essentially means, a bit like when you move house, it essentially means this page isn't here anymore, but it hasn't been deleted, it's not broken, it's moved, and its new home is now over here. So effectively what happens is a browser or Google's bot comes along and says, can I have http://domain.com? And your server, the instruction there with this 301 redirect, that then says, oh, hang on, that's a HTTP request. All of my pages have moved to HTTPS. So I'm going to redirect you to exactly the same URL, but with a HTTPS rather than HTTP. And hey presto, Google still finds that exact same page. So it's one redirect instruction that says every single HTTP request redirect to the same URL, but HTTPS. So domain.com/about becomes https://domain.com/about rather than HTTP. So every single one of your 10,000 pages has a redirect instruction. One little job, everything done in one go. Okay, so just to track back a bit, get your certificate, make sure your site is serving only on HTTPS, and then make sure you get your redirect in place to redirect the old HTTP links to HTTPS, and that should also then retain your rankings and stop any confusion over duplicate content. Googlebot will gradually crawl your new pages, and your pages in the index, which are HTTP, will gradually update to HTTPS. As people search and find you on Google, and hopefully that's happening, if it isn't, then give us a shout and we'll do an SEO audit for you for free and tell you why that's happening. Okay, but even though those HTTP links remain in Google's index, or people have them bookmarked on their machine or whatever, the same redirect that I just talked about will redirect that request to the page that now lives in HTTPS rather than HTTP. So your website continues to work, people still find the links, any external links that you've got still carry some equity, you still get the value of those, people can still find it. It's just being moved, and that's what that instruction says. Okay, so that's kind of the first 3 or 4 steps. So what are the little things that people start moving with missing with a move from HTTP to HTTPS? So the next thing that happens quite a lot is you need to go and have a look through your entire website. There are some systems, some processes, some apps, some tools out there that will let you do this. But what you might find is that you've written a blog post at some point and you've put a link in there to another blog post, and you've used what we call a full path link. So the link in your now HTTPS page now links to http mydomain.com/blog/lovely blog post. But it's in a HTTPS page. So that link now is HTTP. If I click on that, your server goes, hang on a minute, I'm going to redirect that to HTTPS. So you could have a handful of these, you could have hundreds, you could have thousands of them. So you need to ideally, this isn't going to break your website, okay, it's still going to work, but best practice is to go through and check all those links and update those all to HTTPS, or better still, just remove that domain part. So instead of always linking to http://domain.com/something, all you actually need to do is forget everything up until the domain, so tillison.co.uk, forget that part, everything from that / onwards, just link to that. Because that means if I click that link or follow that link, it's in the context of the domain I am on. Okay, and that means when you're moving from HTTP or www or not www and off to HTTPS or move around, those links are then contextual. So if you've had that protocol and that policy in place for your website already, that means all of those internal links that are contextual, when I'm browsing your site with a HTTPS protocol, all of those links are automatically HTTPS. You don't need to do anything. But go and crawl your site and make sure all of your internal links to other pages on your site are either those contextual links, so everything after the domain, so /page/page/page, or they are full path and they're HTTPS. And that will make it easier and cleaner for Google to crawl your site without having all these little messy redirects all over the place. Okay, so so that's the next step. The next thing that happens, so I'll just show you this. So this is a site that has updated to HTTPS, and we get this lovely, secure, brilliant. Okay, that's great. Except if we go and look over here, insecure block content. Oh, it's a big scary alert. But hang on, I'm on HTTPS, so why is this happening? Right, so what's happening here is this page is trying to load scripts from unauthenticated sources. So what we've got in our HTML code here is some HTTP content trying to serve within a HTTPS page, which is now insecure. So I'm getting a warning here as well. So you need to go and test your website, have a look for this badge coming up, but just go and look through, or ask your developer when they do the migration for you, to go and look through and find any references to HTTP scripts and codes within your website. And you generally find that these aren't just, there's a page with that one on, there's a page with that one on. Normally these are things like, I'm calling fonts from outside, maybe Google fonts. Maybe there's some sort of sharing icons, social sharing icons, and those are referencing a server somewhere else on the net, and you've got a legacy version of that script, an old one, that is HTTP rather than HTTPS. And what happens there is you get this odd badge, which scares a few people, and your migration to HTTPS is not complete. The other thing that can happen in quite in a few circumstances is that because this is calling an insecure script, Chrome just doesn't run it, and that could stop bits of your website working at all for certain users. So we've actually had that just recently with the navigation menu on mobile devices. It just doesn't work at all. And it's purely because of that insecure script, that insecure code on HTTP running in a HTTPS page, and it's being blocked by Chrome, by the browser. So you need to run through your website and check for those issues and address them. So you'll probably find the script you are using, there is a new HTTPS version, so you need to go and find that or replace it with another one somehow. Probably a developer job. So there we go. So, the next thing to think about is, in some circumstances, although you might have one domain and what looks like one website, there are quite a few sites that I work on where actually there are two content management systems serving content. So, if you have an e-commerce store that's serving all of your products and all of your categories and all of that content and your payment gateway, and you've done all those steps I mentioned, and made sure that the CMS is serving your content on HTTPS, you might also have WordPress serving a blog within that site as well. So remember, you need to check this on both CMS platforms to make sure that the configuration is correct as well. So we're getting into the weeds here a bit, but all of this stuff is important if you're going to complete this migration properly. So the next thing to think about, if you are an e-commerce store, and you have a shopping feed for your for your Google Shopping ads, that's going to be outputting an XML feed with links to your products and to your images. I would go and check that feed to make sure that now you are on HTTPS, that all of those products coming out of there are all that data is now coming out with a new HTTPS protocol, not the old HTTP one. Remember, all of those HTTP links and images, they're all going to redirect. So it's not going to break anything. It's not that anyone's not going to find it. But the problem is, every time someone clicks on your product ad, they put a request to your server, which then says, oh, hang on a minute, I'm not there anymore, I've moved to HTTPS, and then redirects. So you're adding an unnecessary step, you're slowing things down, you are slowing Googlebot down, and the whole thing just becomes a bit of a grind and a bit messy. So belt and braces, I would absolutely go and tidy that shopping feed up, make sure it's all outputting in HTTPS rather than HTTP. If you're using a third-party shopping payment processor, you need to make sure that the configuration is correct there. If you are using Google Shopping and your inventory is being managed within a Google Sheet, you're going to have to go into that Google Sheet and update all of your HTTP links for images and products and additional images and so on to HTTPS. That's pretty handy actually. If you are using Google Sheets, highlight the lot, find http:// replace with https:// nice and quick, done. Okay. You also need to go in the Merchant Center and update all of your, this is my domain name and these are our terms and conditions, all those standard links. You want to go and update all of those in the Google Merchant Center as well. So that's just a couple of things on Google Shopping. If you're doing Bing Shopping or any of the other platforms, you're going to need to do the same thing on those as well. So next up, Search Console. Load of videos on this channel about Search Console. So this is Google's tool that tells you about your domain. The problem you're going to have here with this migration is www.domain.com on HTTP is one version of your website. HTTP domain.com without W's is another version, so that's two. HTTPS no W's, domain.com is the third version, and HTTPS www.domain.com is the fourth version. Webmaster Tools, Search Console, whatever you want to call it, those are 4 different profiles. Okay, they're technically 4 different websites that could potentially serve content. Up until now, you've been on HTTP. You need to now validate and authorize your access to the HTTPS version of that. So head over to Search Console, Webmaster Tools, and add a new website for HTTPS, domain.com, whatever you're using, W's, non-W's, but the HTTPS version, and then go through the validation process, update your HTML tag or whatever, or if you're connected with analytics, you'll be able to do that quite easily. But go and validate that, and you then need to remember you need to check for your crawl errors and your standard optimization, what's broken on your website, very carefully with the HTTPS and frequently as you do the migration. But also you need to keep checking that old HTTP version as well, because there might still be errors and things coming in there. Maybe the migration haven't quite been implemented properly. So you're going to need to go through and check those as well. Okay, so there's lots of stuff involved. I did say this wasn't going to be a short show. Okay, so next, what do we need to do? So we need to go to Google Analytics, assuming you're using that, and you need to go and just change the configuration to say, hey, in the basic admin, you don't need to open a new account or anything silly like that, but in the admin section it says, what is your domain, what protocol is it, you just need to update that to HTTPS. Again, nothing's going to break, but if you're doing this, we may as well do it properly. Go and update Google Analytics to HTTPS as well. Okay, so next up, pay-per-click. Where are you advertising? Where are those URLs in all of those ads, in Google ads, in Bing ads, in Facebook ads, in LinkedIn ads, all of those places where you've got URLs firing out there to the internet that are all HTTP, those are all going to need to be updated to HTTPS. Again, remember, if they click an ad and it's a HTTP link, your redirect that we talked about right at the top, step number 3, I think it was, that's going to pick up that request and redirect it. But if you're paying for clicks, you definitely don't want to slow down access to your website through a redirect. If you're using the offline AdWords editor, you can literally highlight all the ads, find http:// replace with https:// and job done. However, remember when you do that, you are technically creating new ads replacing the old ones, which means all of the history and the click-through rate and all those lovely stats that we optimize on a daily basis, you're going to lose that data. So just bear that in mind. And think about doing your optimization before you replace HTTP with HTTPS in your ads, and you're going to need to do the same with Bing ads and Facebook and LinkedIn ads and all of those platforms as well. So let's just run through that and recap again. So get your SSL certificate, implement it on your server, and try and make sure you're only serving on HTTPS, not HTTP. Make sure you've configured your CMS platform or platforms to serve only on HTTPS rather than HTTP. In htaccess, make sure you've got a blanket 301 redirect to redirect all of those old HTTP requests to HTTPS. Make sure you run through the website and find any old links that are full path HTTP and update them to HTTPS, or those contextual URLs which will just be /folder/page or whatever they are. Make sure that you update all of your scripts to avoid that other little annoying warning, and to make sure the functionality of your website works as well. So we need to go in through that. Make sure if you're using Google Shopping, all of your feeds are outputting on HTTPS, or if you're using a Google Sheet to serve that content, go and update that as well. Head to Search Console, Webmaster Tools, and validate your new HTTPS version of your domain. Otherwise, you're going to miss all those crawl errors that are going to happen. Change your Google Analytics and change all of your PPC ads as well. So we're nearly there. We've got a few things left, and I'm sure there are a few things I've missed. So the next thing to think about, again, these would redirect anyway, but I would go and check all of your social media profiles, all of your staff's social media profiles, to, head to the LinkedIn profile. Oh, our domain's HTTP. No, it isn't. Not anymore. HTTPS. Get that updated. your Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, all of those sites, YouTube, head over to all of those and update all of those places to HTTPS. Think about your email footers. Everyone's sending email out from your organisation every day. You want the HTTPS link in the footer, not the HTTP link in the same way. Email marketing software. What about those automated emails that are going, yeah, look, here's a piece of content. This is how you do this. They're all HTTP links. Every time you're sending an email out, it's got the HTTP link in the footer somewhere. So all of those things, again, just get through all those systems. Think about how you're communicating with your audience. How are they getting messages? How are they getting emails? Are they coming through some other method? Maybe using some sort of text messaging. You want to update all of those to HTTPS so that the connection to your server is much quicker and the internet knows wherever your site is crawled that it's all HTTPS, not HTTP. And then finally, again, there are lots of tools out there, lots of SEO tools. The links to your website from external sources are really, really, really valuable. So that's one of the main reasons why we recommend doing the 301 redirects, so that those external links that are passing link equity or ranking juice to your website, to your web pages, they're still intact and you retain the value of those, and the HTTPS page effectively replaces the HTTP page, okay? But ideally, and this could be more effort than it's worth, but if it's simple for you and easy for you to go and find those links that are linking to your old HTTP URLs, is to contact those people that are linking to you, thank them very much, send them some cake, do whatever you can because they're gold dust. But just kindly ask them and say, look, you've got a link to our website. I'd really appreciate it if you would go and update that to HTTPS for me. And that's going to speed up the internet for everybody ultimately, and certainly for that person clicking that link coming to your website. And it also means that the value of that link is actually stronger than one that is redirected as well. So there's quite a big list there. There's going to be, this video will be embedded in a blog post. So head to tillison.co.uk and you will find it. I'll put a link in the video. If you have any questions about any of the things I've talked about, and there's a lot in this list, there's about a dozen things in this checklist, to make sure that if you're moving from HTTP to HTTPS to get rid of these not secure and all this kind of nonsense, then we'll kind of put this in a blog post and you can go through, you can download it, you can use it for your own checklist. If you would like an SEO audit, if you'd like us to check what you've done to make sure that you've done this properly, or if you're thinking about doing this and you'd like us to do it for you, we can certainly do that. Head to tillison.co.uk and contact us there and we'd be happy to help. If you've enjoyed this, please do give us a thumbs up and subscribe for more videos. There'll be another one next week.